Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to a very different episode of the Gentleman's Pick Shop. I ask, please watch this video to the end, purely for the fact that I'm trying to show you something which, if you enjoy this channel, because we do a lot of homebrew games here, you may very well enjoy this magazine. This is BrewOtaku, I believe it's pronounced. Very strange name, not the easiest to pronounce for me, but it is right up my street. It is full of homebrew games. This channel is very small. All I ask is if people enjoy it, please click on the subscribe button. And this magazine shares the same challenges. It's a small magazine in a giant world out there trying to get a foothold. And I look at the content that has been produced here and I think I have to do a video of this. My friend WLS, he told me about this magazine and I asked him, I said, can you just share me a couple of copies so I can have a look here? And he did, and I thought I've got to make a video to try and get the viewership of this magazine, you know, a little bit higher, because it is rather something special. Let's go on a viewing journey together. So here we are. I'm using cover here. I've got the magazines loaded in. We are only going to be looking at this first issue of the magazine. Boom, there you go. You can see the cover full screen there at the moment. When I had a look at this, the look through I had, my first thoughts were Crash, the original Crash magazine, where you had lots of little games with lots of information about it. Well, the work that has got into this magazine is absolutely astounding. It really is. There's only 8 issues so far, but bloody hell, you know, this is how this has flown under people's radars for so long. It's because it hasn't had the publicity, and this one deserves it. I'm not affiliated to this magazine. I'm not being paid by this magazine to do this. This is done from someone that is trying to grow their little channel to help out someone that is trying to grow their magazine, because you know what? Their magazine is absolutely worth it. So let's have a look, see what we've got. So we've got an advert here, something called Starblader. So this is coming from Retro Euro mid-2024 for the Atari Lynx. Well, I have no idea what that game is, but you know what? I've already learned something. We've got a new game on the Atari Lynx coming out. So here is the editorial that you've got here, and I'm not going to read everything out to you here, but we've got Shazad, Saeed and Ariba, I hope I've got your names correctly, that have actually produced this magazine. And you know what, to see a magazine come out purely for homebrew, I don't think we've really got anything like it. I really don't. So let's go through this and see what else we can find. So the Dragon Shop, what is the Dragon Shop? Okay, there's some accessories that you can get here for your computers and stuff like that. You know, Dragon DE, so yeah, I think that's a German shop here. A free printed catalogue in German though. But yeah, these are new spaces where you can order stuff. You know, I've recently ordered some SID chips for my Commodore 64 Ultra that came from a shop in Europe as well. So this is a worldwide world that we've got here. So all this stuff is, you know, available to anybody that may want to pay a little bit of import taxes, especially if you're going to America. But you know, you will find places that you didn't know existed as well where you can get stuff. And as a little point of note, my RetroTink 4K that I use on the channel didn't come from the US. It came from a reseller in Europe. So, you know, although I'm British, I will buy European. I encourage you to as well. All right, so this is it. So News Caller 1 of 20. So this tells us that we have got 20 pages of little articles here about games, and this is a bit that reminded me about Crash. You know, if you look at the early issues of Crash, you know, you would open it up and they would have small little blocks about games. But look at this, you've got the URL on the screen as well where you can get it from, and you've got a QR code that, you know, looks like it will probably take you to the site of each game, especially when you look at how they're positioned. So, you know, thought has gone into this on, you know, how to basically sell the games, push the games. And remember, a lot of the games that you've got on here are free as well. So, you know, it will be stuff that if you're only buying the cover price of this magazine, you will find a lot of things that you didn't know about. So let's have a little look through here. So, you know, we've got this Atari VCS game. That looks interesting for me to play. You know, I'm already looking at this Stuntman Seymour. What is that? You know, my eyes are now opening for things that we can do on the channel. So we're just going to flip through and just look at some of these and see the entire contents of this magazine to give you a taster of what this is all about. So let's see what we have here. And I've noticed at the top you've got December 23 to February 24, so they list the dates that these came out as well. Maybe, or was the magazine December 23 to February 24? I don't know. We need to keep an eye on the top there. We absolutely do. But yeah, there's games. I mean, look at that Good Boy Galaxy for the Game Boy Advance. You know, I've never seen that before, so you know that could be worth a look. You know, I like puzzle games. That Amiga OCS one looks okay, Spheroid as well. So already my mind is full of thoughts on what we could do. Another advert that you've got here, and we're just going to work our way through this. You know, Alien Holocaust, what is that? What is that for the Atari VCS? You know, it looks like there's a blimp there and maybe you've got to shoot things down. You know, we'd have to play it. We'd have to play it to find out. But all this information is available for where you can get these games. So let's have a look to see whether we can actually see anything that we've played. Because remember, a lot of this will also come from itch, and there is so much there. It's so easy to miss stuff. So Cavilon by WLS, yes, we've played that one. We've done that. That's certainly there, but you know, we've got others on this screen that I've not seen before, and that Hexajoule, that looks like a horrible puzzle game I used to have when I was a kid with the hexagons or something. It's obviously not, it's something a bit different, but yeah, that's on the Sega Mega Drive and the Genesis. Alright, go through here, let's see whether we can find something on every page that we've played. And no, this is a clear page, so you know, we've got 4 games we could look at doing on the channel. And here we got a few more as well. What are these? What are these? Oh, I'm actually looking at Bubble Frog here, thinking, what on earth is that? Help John Bubble to rescue all on a grill. Travel from the pink zone to the blue zone to make sure you don't collide with anything that could terminate your mission earlier than expected. Dangerous situations await you literally on every single corner. Alright, so come on, there's got to be something on this page. And can I see anything? No, I can't, but this already shows you the wealth of that. I thought that was Uridium for a top at the moment on Starseed there on the top left, but this is already opening a catalogue of games to be playing. You know, we're still December 23 to February 24, so that is probably you know, the time of this magazine, which is absolutely fine. You know, Diana Cave Adventure. What on earth is that going to be? What on earth is that? And then you've got Pong Wars. So that's on the Atari 2600 as well. So that looks a little bit interesting, doesn't it? And you know, we got adventure games as well. So it seems to cover a wealth of all types of games. So let's just quickly flick through these. You know, and look, Mutant Mushrooms, we've done that from the Death Squad as well. That was a good fun game that we had there. Savage Princess 2. Now, we've certainly done the first one. I think we've done the second one as well. What else have we got? What else have we got? Vixen on the Game Boy Color. So I didn't know that you actually did that on the Game Boy Color. See, that's one that I missed. There's such a sea of opportunity of games here that, you know, I hope all of you, if you've got a Mr. FPJ or whatever emulation system that you've got, you're looking at this thinking, you know what? I think I fancy a go on that game. I think I fancy a go on that game. And this is what it's all about. And this magazine here, all 8 issues of it, will bring you new and exciting things, and hopefully good things that you want to play. All right, let's go down here. You know, Snakes Land. You know, Snakes and Ladders for the TRS-80. That's 2-player, so I won't be playing that. But that does look quite pretty, doesn't it? And look at that, you've got ZXFM, a new game of Football Manager. So manage your own league, or managers already set them out. So that's obviously the old, like, Addictive Games Football Manager, but maybe redone. Obviously with up-to-date bits and pieces there, because I'm assuming that came out in December to February 2024. So that will be reasonably updated. And look at this, you got Minesweeper, we got Froggy's Quest. That looks quite bright and cheerful, doesn't it? I said we'll quickly go through here. You got a Duck Hunt on the Amiga. Dear Lord, there is so much. And you're 18 of 20, 19 of 20, and you know, look at this Jump and Bump. Yeah, that could be interesting as well. But you know, 20 of 20, and assuming that, you know, you've got 4 games on every page, that's a nice chunk of new games that you may not be aware about. So that's up to this point in the magazine. Let's see what else it has. So C64 for dummies. Well, you know, this is probably going to be quite interesting to people that were Spectrum owners to try and understand. Although I was a Spectrum fan first of all, I think the C64 is a great machine. I'm getting the C64 Ultimate. There might be some stuff in here that I will learn from myself here. Look at that Kempston type joystick that you've got there as well. Art and the C64. Yeah, there is effort has been put into this. This just absolutely oozes effort. So, what's this? A commercial Game Boy from the Game Boy. So it talks about Super Mario Land from 1989. You know, I remember this. Good Lord, I remember this. And that's frightening that I remember this. You're thinking, you know, how many decades ago that was. What else have we got? We got Egbert. Now, this tells me that this is a new version that came out in 2023 of a 1983 game here, and that is on the Game Boy Color. Alright, so there's quite a few Game Boy games here as well, but you saw in the main article that, you know, it's just splattered. It really, really is, with all systems, and look, they even give scores here. They got a brew score of 60%. They like this one a little bit more. They got 70%. So, you know, you're actually getting full reviews as well. So you're not just getting the short articles about what the games are. You're getting full reviews. What is this? Micron Junior. Okay, and that's for the NES. That's for the NES. That might be worth looking at, actually. That might be worth looking at as well. And then the Pazak battles. So there's Greedo there. He hasn't been shot by Han Solo. But yeah, just look at this. The quality here is really, really good. Although that's going to be some kind of game that you've got to learn to play. I guess with cards it's going to be terribly, terribly hard to play. I don't know. I really, really don't know. Right, what else we got? Running Night 2023. A game by Dr. Nudos for the Atari Lynx. So there we go, another Atari Lynx game, 78% for that one. And oh my god, you know, super cooked. Are those ducks in a restaurant? Is that a duck in a restaurant? I don't know. We've got to be careful, because if it is a duck in the restaurant, you may look like this. And I had to lean over to get this. So, you know, look at this duck in the restaurant. I 3D print ducks for one of my mates at work. And you know what? This is a very unhappy duck. This is a dead duck that you've got. I hope that didn't blur too much from that. But maybe he was being super cooked as well. All right, Cursed Crown. Okay, it's a casual puzzle game. This is on the NES as well. And it's free. Good Lord. You know, this is just so many things you never knew existed. Oh, this looks complicated. Devolution, global warming. Okay, so this game is for the Commodore 64 and MS-DOS as well. So this is news to me. I did not realise that you were still getting new games for MS-DOS. And we could play those on the Mr. FPJ, because that does DOS games quite well. Now that might be quite good on that. That could be quite good on this. All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, Cat Venture. Well, obviously, I like games with cats. You know, I've gone on about my cats enough. But a freeware game by Talking Cats for the NES. And Ryu Kuga. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name. So yeah, you know, this is just a catalogue of great information. Phoenix Corruptor. Okay, so this talks about the Scorpion engine. Now, the Scorpion engine, there are a lot of Amiga games and Sega Mega Drives that have been created on it, and it is absolutely phenomenal what it does. It really is great on some of those systems, so I don't know how much depth this goes into, whether it's an introduction to it or what it is exactly, but there's a link there where you can get to it. Go to the Patreon for Scorpion Engine. So although I talk at the beginning about, you know, small channels like myself are very niche, you looking for subscribers to know you're doing it the right way, you know, and we do promote games. We give links in the URL where you can get them. The link where you can get this magazine will be in the URL as well. But this guy here, or the team of people that are involved in this, you know, they are absolutely publicising everything here with links and all the other bits and pieces. So, you know, although you may pay a couple of quid for this, you know, they're really trying to push something for the retro scene that actually doesn't seem self-obsessed or anything like that. This is really, really nice to see. Okay, we got an interview with Eric Hogan, okay, and he's from New Zealand, and he created the Scorpion engine. Okay, so that guy is going to have a lot of talent. All right, we got another review here. Huck on the Mississippi. Skull Nightmare. That's a rather big graphic, isn't it, for the Game Boy? Okay, I'm not even going to try and say that word there. What is this? Is this an adventure game? I truly don't know. And look, I have just noticed, you've got the little, for the reviewer there, you've got a little icon. You've got a little icon on the bottom of the screen. Hopefully that's the reviewer. But let's have a look. Let's see the next one. Yes, the little icon of the reviewer there as well. For Slime Lord Siege. Okay. Tower Defense for the Game Boy Advance. Okay, now Tower Defense games, I don't think existed when the Game Boy Advance was out. But you've just learned about one there that got 73%. I wonder whether his face changes if he's got something he doesn't like. Okay, Mage and the Grimoire of Beast. Wow. Right, and look at this, Bury an ET. So this is a play on the Atari ST. No, his face doesn't change, even though it's got 54%. But it looks like you've got to bury the ET cartridges. So ET was literally buried in the desert when the video game crash happened for the Atari 2600. It looks like your job is to bury them here. Or do we have to dig them up? I don't know. Enough of that. But you could. It must be buried. It's called Bury an ET. Why would it not be just buried and digging them up? I don't know. Okay, so more games here. So, we're page 52. And there is already just a huge wealth of information in here. And there's 8 of these magazines as well. I look at this, when I do a video, my videos are done and dusted, when you hit basically the stop recording button there and you get it uploaded, the amount of time, effort, and everything that's gone into there is just nuts. And I'm just looking at the background image there as well. That looks like a very ill Homer Simpson, doesn't it? It really, really does. All right, let's see what we got next. The Adventures in Carnell Hell. All right, okay, well, there's a lady being taken off there by a beast, I think. I'm not certain whether it is, but that looks like something really bad is happening. Oh, we got more. I don't even know how big this magazine is. All right, Commando Urbex. Okay, that looks like it's an adventure type game where it's like one of those fantasy fighting fantasy books where you've got a choice to do. You got 3 options there. What option are you going to pick? I don't know. Okay, Basket Brawl as well. 93%. Ha! And yes, his face is at the top. Look, it's reversed there, upside down. His face doesn't change, but you can see who done the reviewing. Database Breakthrough. Okay, so this is a conversion of the old arcade game onto the Amiga OCS. Turbo Outrun. My God, is this magazine ever going to end? This is great. This is a great thing, actually. Okay. Oh, look, this got 2 pages worth of review, and here we go. So this is probably the last page, asking for feedback and everything else like this. Yep. Printed magazine does cost money. The team unfortunately cannot compromise here, but we make sure BrewOtaku stays as affordable as possible. All right, very, very good. And there's an advert at the end. So that is the last page. I hope you've enjoyed what I've showed you here. As I'm not paid any money to do this or anything like this. And this is purely for the love of people who pour their hearts and souls into games. We have the coders that do it, the developers, and all the people like that. The musicians. But you also get the people that publicise these kind of things, like my channel here, or certainly this magazine here. I really, really do hope you go and take a look at this magazine. All of you stay safe. All of you take care. And I'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Would you like to play again?